Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, Max Muncy had a huge night. The offense and the pitching showed up on the same day, and it led to a Dodgers win, like it will a lot this year. We'll talk about Muncy's big night. We'll talk about James Outman being trusted against lefties, and we'll talk a little bit about the latest in PitchCom this year with some pitchers calling their own pitches. That's what's on tap, so let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. Or even better, go ahead and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now, and then you will never miss a day because you know we're not going to. If this is your first time with us, I am Jeff Snider. That guy next to me is Vince Samperio. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans just like you are, and we've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room. So we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. This episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Go to HelloFresh.com/MLB60 and use code MLB60 for 60% off plus free shipping. And speaking of free shipping, Max Muncy shipped a couple baseballs over the wall on Monday night. And as far as I know, he didn't pay for it. I think Logan Webb's ego and Sean Jelly's Major League although Jelly pitched well after that, not really his fault, but I'm trying to segue here. And Max Muncy was good and the Dodgers won. And Vince, when the offense and the pitching show up at the same time, this is still a really good team.
Yeah, and that's going to happen hopefully more often than not. Like I said, flush the weekend away. This is the best way to do it. You get 6 from your ace and Julio. You get, a leadoff homer for Mookie. You get 2 homers from Max Muncy, who had been struggling, and who I saw a lot of chatter on the timeline about moving them out of the 4th spot. If there's one thing, if you're a Dodger fan and you've watched the last few years, is 10 games is not enough to get anybody moved out of any spot. So I don't know what the difference is now this year, other than maybe people think they're not going to be as good as years past. But either way, yeah, Muncy, the interesting part is obviously we know he owns the Giants. That's 23 homers and 51 RBI in 73 games against the Giants. I think 62 of those games were starts. So, or 63, whatever. But he also seems to go back to something that he did last year to get that got him going, and that's that little step back. Not as exaggerated as it was last season, but it is there. Whatever it is, if that's going to help him. I know he didn't like to do it last year, but he got him going, and it helped out with his timing. Probably feels the same way about it this year, but the fact that he knows it works, and if it works and continues to work, then kick that foot back.
Yep, for sure. During spring training, he said that he was doing away with the step back because it was a compensation for the elbow injury, and now that he was fully healthy, he didn't think he needed it anymore. But he also left open the possibility of going back to it if necessary. And he told Kirsten after the game tonight that he felt like he needed to go back to it, to go back to some of the mechanical changes that they did late last year. And Muncy, basically after he started that step back late June last year, he was basically classic Max Muncy the rest of the year. And we could go for that classic Max Muncy. It's not going to be this easy. He's not going to hit 2 home runs every game that he does the step back. Prove me wrong, Max. But it works obviously. And he had another hit. He had, I think, did he only come up 4 times tonight? He had a walk and a single and 2 homers. I think that was his only 4 plate appearances. And so, it's hard to complain too much about that night for Max Muncy. And it really does illustrate, like you said, that overreacting this early in the season is never a good idea. Guys are going to struggle, and guys are going to have 10-game slumps. And when that 10-game slump happens at the beginning of the season, you think this guy can't hit anymore. And when it happens in October, you think this guy can't handle the pressure of October. And when it happens in August, you think this guy can't handle a long season. And really, most of the time, all it really means is, oh, it's baseball. Baseball's a hard game. The pitcher's out there trying to get me out. And sometimes he's successful. And sometimes the pitcher's successful 8 or 10 games in a row. And that's how baseball goes. And so, it was, I was very happy for Max Muncy tonight for sure.
Yeah, the other part of, oh, move him out of the 4 spot, type of behavior is, okay, who are you putting in the 4 spot then? I guess the answer could be James Outman. He's the only other guy, or not. He's the main guy that's hitting in that bottom part of the lineup. But if it's not James Outman, and maybe we probably don't want to put a Ricky there in general, anyways. But it's not like JD Martinez is hitting. No one's really hitting stand out enough to be in that 4 spot. So Max Muncy's that guy. He's going to continue to be that guy, and hopefully he gets it going here, and we see the offense start to click even more. I didn't go back and look. I wanted to, but the Dodgers seem to score at the very least early. They scored in the first inning. I gotta say, I would imagine at least 4 or 5 of the games so far. And it doesn't always work out, as we saw the other day when Syndergaard pitched. But getting on them early, that top of the lineup. Today that top of the lineup hit 3 homers. Those first 4 in the lineup, and then everyone else kind of filled in. We'll get into Outman a little bit later. He's the other guy that kind of added to it. But yeah, Max Muncy, this Dodger offense obviously is going to be good if the guys at the top of the order are good. Mookie Betts is hitting, if Freddie Freeman's hitting, if Will Smith and Max Muncy, if all those guys are hitting, then this offense is still going to be pretty good. And when it comes down to it, even Mookie Betts asked him before the game how he's felt this start to the season has been for him, and he said it's been trash for him, and he hasn't had as bad a time as Max Muncy has. So he got, hopefully getting going right today with that homer, leadoff homer. He had 2 other hits and hit another ball hard that, just stayed up long enough for the center fielder to get it. So, yeah, this offense goes when the top of the order goes, as with any team, but I think a little bit more with this team than in years past.
Yeah, they've scored in the first inning in 7 of their 11 games now, which is, usually that's a pretty good formula. And, I saw it was kind of funny, like in our YouTube comments on your episode yesterday, there was a lot of people, or at least some vocal people, talking about what was wrong with the offense. And the story of the weekend against the Diamondbacks wasn't the offense, it was the pitching. One guy saying, the Diamondbacks, they put the ball in play and then let take advantage of no shift and blah, blah, blah. And Dodgers are out there swinging for the fences. In Sunday's game, the Dodgers struck out 4 times and the D-backs struck out 10 times. Like it's so easy to look for an easy answer. And shockingly, the easy answer is always the thing that you already believed anyway. And realistically, the reason the Dodgers lost 3 out of 4 to the Diamondbacks is because the pitching didn't show up, and there's plenty of reasons why that might be. And, none of those are easy answers either. But the offense has been doing really well, other than the 2 games against the Diamondbacks in the opening series when the Dodgers lost 2-1. The offense has shown up almost every game and looked really, really good. And, hopefully Syndergaard and whoever fills the 5th rotation spot can step things up a little bit and not give away big leads like they did this weekend. But I'm feeling good about the offense, and I'm feeling even better about it if Max Muncy is really going to start hitting too.
Yeah, it's the first 4 games of the season against the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks scored 7 runs. So where was that, that find the hole and beat the shift and make contact? It was a matter of a bad weekend, hopefully, for the Dodgers and on the pitching side. And the Diamondbacks put the bat on the ball when they did put the bat on the ball, it just happened to be a base hit. But as you mentioned, it wasn't always them putting the bat on the ball. They just strike out.
Yeah. And I totally agree. I'm not dismissing the Diamondbacks are an exciting team. Like, I wish everybody on the Dodgers was as fast as Corbin Carroll. Like, it would change the game. But yeah, nobody in baseball is as fast as Corbin Carroll. It's not just the Dodgers who aren't as fast as Corbin Carroll. It's everybody in baseball. And the Dodgers overall in the 8 games against the Diamondbacks have done a decent job of limiting Carroll's impact, even though he's stolen 5 bases against them. Like, he hasn't done a ton of getting on base. And, we did see in that game where he did steal 2 bases and both of them led to a run. And so he can definitely impact the game when he's on base. And the key is don't let him get on base. But the brand of baseball, it's going to slump too. The Diamondbacks are going to have slumps too, because they're just another baseball team that plays good sometimes and not great sometimes. So one guy who plays great, seems like almost all the time, is James Outman. We're going to come back in a minute. James Outman got a key at bat against a tough lefty in this game on Monday night. And we're going to talk about whether that is a harbinger of good things to come. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. And please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by So Rare. Our new sponsor, So Rare, is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace, transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. And unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. What sort of epic rewards, you might ask? Well, So Rare MLB game weeks happen twice weekly and span a 3 or 4 day cycle. At the end of game weeks, So Rare MLB managers who rank at or near the top of their leaderboards win a variety of rewards, which can include So Rare scarcity cards, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, and VIP experiences like meeting MLB stars. Prizes may vary depending on the competition. This is a fantasy baseball where you can actually win really cool stuff. Not bragging rights, but, meeting Juan Soto, that would be kind of cool. So head to sorare.com/lockedon. That's SORARE.com/lockedon to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's sorare.com/lockedon to start playing today. All right, we are back. We want to thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. If you're watching on YouTube, we'd love to hear your comments in the comments section. Even when I disagree with them, I do appreciate them. And, I probably mention the ones I disagree with more than the ones I agree with. Maybe I need to be better at that. But, a little friendly debate among Dodger fans is always fun. And I hope I'm respectful about it at least. I actually almost quote tweeted somebody on Twitter tonight, Vince, who had tweeted something dumb. And I looked and saw that the person follows me. So I didn't quote tweet them. That's one of the perils of wanting everybody to like you. That's how I am. But we'd love to hear from you guys in the comment section. If you're listening on the podcast, we'd love to hear from you on social media or email or whatever. We'll give you all that contact info at the end. But Vince, James Outman continues to play really well. He had another triple tonight. He now has 3 homers and 3 triples through 11 games, which I think puts him on pace for about 42 or 43 of each. And I'll go on record right now. If he hits 42 homers and 42 triples this year, he will win the MVP award, not just the Rookie of the Year, maybe even the Cy Young award. They might just give him all 3.
I thought you were gonna offer up your shoe again.
No, because no. I'm holding out hope on that one. So and he's looking really good. And a key moment came late in the game. The Dodgers were at 4-1, still, very much in question. These Giants. I think the Giants have the second most home runs in the National League, right behind the Dodgers. And so they can hit. And a 4-1 lead is not safe. And the Giants brought in Taylor Rogers, the twin brother of Tyler Rogers. Taylor is the left-hander. They brought him in to pitch. And Dave Roberts let James Outman stay in the game. Trace Thompson was on the bench, presumably could have pinch hit for him. But they let Outman hit. And I think he got in an 0-2 count and then ended up working a walk. And that walk started the rally that ended. And by the time that inning ended, the Dodgers were up 9-1. Outman ended up scoring. He stole second. He's now still the only Dodger with a stolen base this year. He's 2 for 2. He stole second, scored on a Mookie Betts single. And Freddie followed that up with a single. And then Smith followed that up with a single that maybe showcased Wilmer Flores' athleticism better than anything any words could possibly do. One of the least athletic plays you'll see on a baseball field by Wilmer Flores. Loaded the bases, and then Max Muncy came up and hit the grand slam. And that inning started because James Outman put up a really tough at bat against a tough lefty and worked a walk. And Vince, you mentioned before we hit record that Jack Harris from the LA Times said that might be something we see a little bit more of.
Yeah, it started because Dave Roberts let James Outman face a left-handed pitcher. And it's a matter of if he hadn't said anything before the game, just with this, you would believe, okay, maybe he's trusting him a little bit more, wants to see at the very least what he can do. He did homer off Bumgarner the other night, and maybe it is a matter of what kind of left-handed pitcher. But yeah, Jack Harris from the LA Times did mention that Roberts said he does trust Outman against left-handed pitchers. And yeah, we saw him get pinch hit for Austin Barnes earlier this season. And, we talked about it then, and now he didn't get pitched for this time, and we saw the walk. Like I said, Rogers doesn't throw as hard as, I don't remember who he faced the last time it was left-handed when he got pinch hit for, but, Bumgarner doesn't throw that hard either. So, is it a matter of velocity thing? Is it a matter of they're going to, let him go until he shows that he can't hit left-handed pitching in the major leagues? I don't know, but this is exactly what we wanted. The guy's hot, he's playing well, and, Trace Thompson isn't necessarily – he had that one night, but other than that one night, he only has one other hit and hasn't shown that he could hit lefties last year. Didn't really show that he could hit lefties too much, in spring or anything so far this season that's anything special. So I don't mind seeing Outman get those at bats. And even if sometimes he does struggle or doesn't get a hit or, strikes out against a left-handed pitcher, that's fine because you want to see what he can do. And it's with Trace Thompson at this point, you kind of know what you're going to get to a certain extent. With other guys that are more veteran players, you kind of know what you're going to get to a certain extent. James Outman, yeah, he can go off minor league numbers, but that's a different game down there. You got to see what he can do against major league pitching left-handed, especially this season specifically when he's playing very, very, very well.
Yeah, this was his 6th plate appearance against a lefty this season. And I don't know how many of those you remember, Vince. Here's how they've gone. Kyle Nelson hit him with a pitch, homered off Bumgarner, strikeout against Bumgarner, walk against Bumgarner to load the bases, walk against Kyle Nelson again, and now a walk against Taylor Rogers. So Outman is 1 for 2 with 833 on base percentage against lefties this year. That'll play, and 1 for 2. So 2,000 slugging percentage too. So 2833 against OPS against lefties this year. If he finishes that this season with that too, I'm that bolsters his MVP case, I think. So far this year, all he's done is hit and really is showing that good eye. And so, like you said, maybe it is a certain kind of pitcher, and I don't know if lefties are more susceptible to this, but it seems like this is anecdotal for sure. And if somebody has any data on this, I'd love to hear that I'm wrong or right. I wonder if there's more lefties who do rely on chase than, actually beating you in the strike zone, because that seems to be one of James Outman's really, really big strengths is making pitchers come into the strike zone against him. And, obviously he struck out and looked pretty bad in his last at bat on Monday night, although that was against a righty. But for the most part, he does a really good job of making guys come into the zone. And if, Bumgarner, his stuff isn't very good anymore. And I think he does rely a little bit on chase. He's got that kind of sweeping slider that ends up out of the zone most of the time. And if you can go up there and not swing at that, I mean, Taylor Rogers, like he had him 0-2, and then Outman was just like, okay, but you're going to have to beat me in the zone to finish this strikeout. And Rogers never did come into the zone, and Outman got the walk. And he's done that a few times against lefties now. And so I don't know, am I making up the fact that lefties maybe rely on chase more than righties do?
No, I think especially there's a lower percentage of left-handed pitchers in general already. And then, crafty lefty is a thing. You don't hear crafty righty as often. There are crafty righties, but hear crafty lefty as often. So, yeah, I mean, Jamie Moyer pitched into his early 40s. Rich Hill's still pitching. And these guys don't throw hard, and they don't necessarily throw too many strikes if they don't need to, because when they do, it's low 90s over the plate and pretty easy for a major league hitter to get a hit. So, yeah, I do think there's guys out there that rely on getting you to chase. And, it's annoying when you see Dodger, Oliver Perez, one of those guys as well, that pitched for, 20 some years and, didn't really ever seem to throw that hard, but was able to get guys for whatever reason, whether it's they're baiting you into it, whatever the case is, it does seem to work out for them. And if Outman can just stay off of that, at the very least, even if he doesn't hit very well against lefties, if he can just have good at-bats, draw some of those walks, have an on-base percentage around 400, that's more than half the battle, and that's going to keep him in the lineup against all types of pitchers.
Yeah, I sure hope so, because he's fun to watch, and he brings he's dynamic. He brings excitement. He's very fast, so he's fun to watch run the bases. I mean, he almost had a base hit on a ground ball to third tonight that, third baseman made a nice stab, but the ball was hit hard, and Outman almost beat the throw. And I mean, he makes things happen. It's exciting. Not quite Corbin Carroll speed, but he's better looking than Corbin Carroll, and that matters too. So, and I appreciate you saying that Jamie Moyer pitched till his early 40s, because Jamie Moyer pitched till he was 49, and that makes me feel I'm a month and a half away from my 46th birthday. And thanks to Vince, I can now still say I'm in my early 40s. So, and I've got 3 more years in my early 40s, it sounds like. So that's good news for me.
Yeah, that was for you.
I appreciate that. And Vince is in his late 20s. He's only 32. So, all right, we're going to come back in a minute and talk not specifically about this game, although it was spurred by something in this game. We're going to talk about the new evolution in PitchCom this year, which is pitchers calling their own pitches. So we'll be right back with that. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, and please continue to keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Grand slams, no-hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. And there's plenty of things you can bet on in baseball. If you are a betting fan and somewhere where FanDuel is available, Clayton Kershaw's pitching against the Giants today. On Wednesday. Clayton Kershaw against the Giants is always a good bet. So, keep that one in mind if you're going to FanDuel. Don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, we are back. We want to thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. And Vince, I noticed tonight while we're watching this game, I guess I should give our seasonally disclaimer. I often say tonight because we record this, after the game. So as I'm recording this right now, it's 10:55 p.m. in Utah where I am. It's 9:55 p.m. where Vince is and where the Dodgers played. And so you're listening to this on Tuesday morning. I'm recording it Monday night. So just know when I mean tonight, when I say tonight, I mean Monday night. I noticed that Logan Webb was calling his own pitches, and Joey Bart was his catcher. Bart has not. I don't actually know what Bart's reputation is as a pitch caller. I know that he was a top prospect, but a lot of that was for his bat, and and I don't know if Logan Webb always. This is the first Logan Webb start I've watched this year. Actually, no, I did watch a little bit of opening day against the Yankees when everybody in the game struck out every time they were up. It felt like. But I don't know if Logan Webb always calls his own pitches, but I haven't seen that with the Dodgers pitchers this year. I haven't noticed it. It's possible that maybe 1 or 2 pitchers have done that some. I know Madison Bumgarner was calling his own pitches. And like for me, I get it. And I understand the reasoning behind it. And I think it makes sense for some guys. I kind of love that Will Smith and Austin Barnes are key parts of the game planning process and the pitcher's success. Like, I feel like that puts a lot on a pitcher to, I want my pitchers going out there and working on their stuff, in between starts. I want you focusing on, okay, what do I need to do to make sure I can execute my curveball next time I'm out? You focus on the actual pitching and let the catchers worry about which pitch to throw in which situation. Like as a pitcher, not that pitchers can't handle it. Obviously they can. But I mean, there's a reason that so many major league catchers become major league managers. They are the field generals. They really, really understand the game. And I think it's awesome to have your catcher be part of that game plan so that the pitcher can just focus on executing his pitches. And, I don't know, Vince, I feel pretty strongly about this. I don't know if you do. I deliberately didn't ask you how strongly you feel about it before we decided to talk about it, because I'm kind of hoping we disagree on this, because we hardly ever disagree on this show.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel as strongly, but I was a catcher. So I say from the other side where I want to call the game and I want to be, kind of in charge of what's going on. And you as a pitcher, obviously we talk, half innings, you guys talk and, you know what, I can't throw the slider for a strike. So we need a strike, don't call a slider or, all right, I don't feel this pitch right now, whatever the case is, those conversations. And I think there's certain guys out there, Kershaw would qualify as one of those guys that would, have trust in calling his own game. But Kershaw knows that he's there to pitch, and he trusts obviously Austin Barnes, and now Will Smith. He trusts those guys, and he trusts Mark Pryor, and they talk about the matchups before the game starts, anyways. And I don't know how every team does it. Every team might do it differently, but specifically we know the Dodgers, from what's been said, they have pregame meeting every game with pitchers and prior, and the pitcher and the catcher, and just kind of figure out how they're going to attack every hitter. So that plan is already in place. A guy like, and it also means that Dodgers pitchers are comfortable with the pitch clock and and how the timing of the game is going. Because that's the other part of it. Max Scherzer's been one that's been, calling his own pitches, and we know that's because he wants to just get on the mound and pitch pretty much, and he's a different type of player. Ohtani's been calling his own pitches, but Ohtani's, a cerebral player that maybe, is good enough to do that. Zach Greinke, another guy, cerebral, doesn't have quite the stuff that Ohtani has these days, but
crafty righty.
Yeah, crafty righty. And it's funny that I don't think he knows which button is which because he pushes them and he'll shake himself off and until he probably hears the right one. So, yeah. So I think for the Dodgers, the complete trust in the pitching staff and the pitching coaching staff and the catchers is fine. They're comfortable with the pitch clock or pitch time or whatever you want to call it. And I think it all lends itself well into what imagine if the bullpen was struggling and we knew these guys were calling their own pitches, and it'd be easy to be like, oh, well, maybe they shouldn't do that anymore.
Yeah. And, I do have to acknowledge my bias here. Clayton Kershaw, I think if Kershaw was calling his own pitches, I would probably think, oh, calling your own pitches is great. Because I am biased. And obviously the fact that my favorite team isn't doing it suggests to me that, smart teams shouldn't do it. But I really do love that the catchers are part of that process. And, almost every Dodgers pitcher after a big game, when they talk with the media or whatever, they'll always credit the catcher for calling a good game. You always see that any pitcher, any no hitter, it's always a guy like, oh yeah, I didn't have to shake him off once, or whatever. And I don't think Kershaw ever shakes Barnes off. Not very often anyway. It's fun. And I think that, you and me, just like this podcast, I was a pitcher, you were a catcher, and you need both parts of that team to really be effective. And it seems, I don't know, egotistical or something. I don't want to say that because I really like Shohei Ohtani and, but I mean, like Jessica Mendoza said on the game tonight, Ohtani could, tell the hitter what he's going to throw and he'd still be tough to hit. That frisbee slider and that splitter and 100-mile-an-hour fastball and stuff. Greinke, telling the hitter what's coming seems like a Greinke or a Trevor Bauer thing. I assume both of them have done that at some point. But yeah, I'm sure there's different reasons for every pitcher. But I really like that the Dodgers aren't doing it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Speaking of knowing when pitchers are coming, we didn't talk about this pre-show, but Evan Gattis was on social media talking a lot about the 2017 Astros and, kind of confirming what's already been proven by them suspending and doing, whatever the sanctions that the Astros got. But the one that we always bring up and the one that he brought up is that I'm sure the Dodgers have their own system as well. And that adds to like the list of 15, 20 players that have said that already, or other teams that have said either the Dodgers specifically or other teams have had systems. But, you're thinking in today's day and age that would have came out already if it was something above where the Astros were.
Yeah. And like I've said, I honestly think that's usually a case of the baseball player making the accusation, not being smart enough to understand the difference between legal sign stealing and illegal sign stealing. And I think that's part of the problem I think I could believe, I don't know for sure if it's true, but I could believe if half of the Astros team didn't even realize what they were doing is illegal because they're stupid. I think professional athletes aren't necessarily your smartest subsection of the human population. A lot of them didn't even go to college and, were worshipped as athletes from the time they were mid-teenagers, early teenagers. And so never really a lot of motivation to put in the old book learning. And so maybe Evan Gattis is just dumb, like Logan Morrison is, and like other guys who've made those accusations. But yeah, I do think we definitely need to put in the show description, make sure that we make it clear that we talk about this. And then, because you didn't even bring it up till 27 minutes in. So all these Astros fans who are going to be here just to be mad about it, I want to thank you all for watching this entire episode or listening to this entire episode. These views means a lot to us. And I hope that you just let us have it in the comments section and show how secure you are about that 2017 World Series championship, that your team has already been punished for cheating, having proven to be cheaters, and having now admitted by several members of the team to be cheaters. Be sure to let us know how they didn't really cheat, because that's always a fun conversation. Thanks for the views, Astros fans.
Yeah. If he didn't say anything new, so that's why, I even forgot about it till right now. But yeah, it's just, the other thing he did admit himself is that he used performance enhancing drugs. I don't think he ever got caught for it. So, so shout out to Evan Gattis.
Yeah. Oso Blanco, was that his name, or is that Brian McCann? They're the same person.
No, that was Evan Gattis, I think.
Okay. Yeah. They are the same person. I don't even know how they got away. That's another way they cheated. Having both of those guys on the same team when they're the same person.
One wears batting gloves, one doesn't. That's how they differentiate.
Which one though?
Evan Gattis doesn't wear batting gloves.
Well, I just assume maybe sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't. Back when I was in college, I used to have one sideburn, and I had a roommate for like a year and a half. When he finally realized I had one sideburn, he said, "I just thought sometimes you had sideburns and sometimes you didn't, depending on which side of you I was looking at." So, I called it my Snider burn. Anyway, I think that's going to do it. Now that I've told you all my deep, dark college secrets, maybe next time I tell you about what my Snider burns looked like in high school when I couldn't grow facial hair. But that's for another episode. Dun, dun, dun. You got anything else for today, Vince?
No, we're good.
I'm just going to tell you now. I grew this part of my hair out really long, and I just hang them down so it looked like sideburns. It was the 90s, man. I wanted sideburns. 90210 had them. Jason Priestley has sideburns. How come I can't grow sideburns? So
there wasn't cell phones back then, so no one was making fun of you.
Yeah,
on the internet,
no pictures of that. Yeah, just in person and to my face. All right, that's going to do it for today. Thank you all for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. We really appreciate it. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball. Win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you're not watching or listening to Locked On Dodgers every day, we'd love if you had 1 or 2 days a month to your rotation. If you have friends or family who love the Dodgers as much as you do, please tell them about the show, because maybe they'll like it, Maybe they won't, but maybe out of respect to you, they'll watch it anyway. You can follow us on Instagram and on Twitter at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at Vince Samperio. I'm on Twitter at Snydog, and the DMs are open in all of those places. Our email address is lockedondodgers@gmail.com, and our phone number for voicemails or text messages is 323-863-LOCK 5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one.